Okay, it is the next day. I have been lying under this juniper tree for 24 hours. Yesterday, I could barely move. Everything was just so painful. Anything that required back muscles at all, no. But today I can like move around a tiny bit. Like there's still a lot of pain, but obviously it's nothing as bad as sciatica. So I feel confident I can push through it and get the 4.3 miles back out to the town. I'm gonna go back to town and then rest for at least a week. I think sleep was the most important thing. I actually got good sleep last night versus the night before where I had gotten 1 hour of sleep. And I actually, for most of yesterday, I had company. The winds were howling. We are pretty sure at that one saddle where I had to crawl, we're thinking 60-mile-an-hour winds or something. They were so strong, and so everyone who passed it also had to crawl and then got here, which is like 0.1 miles later, and just like collapses into this like this is the only sheltered spot for like miles and miles around. And then the winds were still just so insanely strong. Everyone decided it was too dangerous to keep hiking because if there's any exposure whatsoever, then you get pushed off the mountain. So they all, there's like 3 lovely hikers who cowboy camped with me in this spot. There's nothing right now. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's just so nice not to have the wind howling in my ears. Anyways, we had all seen forecasts that the winds were supposed to stay high pretty much the entirety of yesterday and then would start to decrease around midnight last night, and they did. They're still windy up here because we're in a wind farm area, but they've gone down a lot. All right, and now is the time where I take a bunch of acetaminophen and ibuprofen and put on the patch that another hiker gave me on my back, and I see if I can roll myself down the mountain. It's gonna be really painful. But I think I can do it. Oh, and it's gonna be my pack is gonna be a little lighter because everyone had to everyone spent a day here waiting out the wind, and so they ate up their food and water. And I am going into town now, so I don't need 4 days of food and water. So I gave some of mine to the other hikers to lighten my load, and then now they can get to their next spot. This is how I'm walking at the moment. I'm not sure how much of that comes through, but it is extremely limited mobility at the moment. But it's still better than yesterday. Yesterday, if I was trying to walk around like this, I would have been having huge pain spasms. Okay, my bag is packed. That was a little painful, but not too bad. But now I'm gonna give myself some rest before I hike down. Oh. What are you? Good look at his little bug butt. Let's see if I can show what it looks like when I try to get up right now. Okay. I'm upright. All right, it's time. Oh, that was a spasm. It's time to see what I'm made of. See if I can get myself out of this, or if I'm going to be having to press that rescue button. Here's the shelter that I stayed in. This is a good spot. Okay. I've experimented with where to tighten my hip belt. I tightened it lower than the hips this time, rather than kind of right at the hips, which is kind of where my lower back strain went. Ooh. I think that's working. Okay, it's gonna be slow. But, okay, I just went out to the wind, which, when I came out here last night to try and pee, it literally knocked me over. Not literally, I almost fell over. And now the wind is just like a gentle breeze. Oh, and I tightened the screws on my trekking poles because I'm going to be putting a lot of weight on these. This is pretty. There's the Saddle of Doom right there that we all we all had to crawl past yesterday. It's slow, very slow, but I think it's gonna work. Yeah, right there. Right there. It's kind of wild to stand easily at the same spot where 24 hours ago I was like crawling to get across because the winds were so strong and screaming into the wind because it was so kind of scary. I mean, the exposure wasn't bad at all. Like there's so much room, and it would have pushed you into this like very shallow little no problem at all kind of thing. This is where I got 0 sleep last night. No, 2 nights ago. Wind's picking up. Better not. Yeah, this is really painful. Really painful. But on the bright side, it is nowhere near as painful as sciatica. Because I can still make plans and joke around, and I feel like a human. So no matter how bad this is, there's still always something that it could be way worse. It's such a nice day for hiking. It feels so wrong to be going to town instead of into the mountains. Break number 1. Took me like an hour and 45 minutes to go like 2.6 miles, which I think is pretty good. I would have taken a break earlier, except that the wind is fickle, and right now it was holding really well, and I wanted to get off the ridge before it changed its mind and started pushing me around, because I don't have the stability to stand against that right now. All right, it's time for lessons of the day, because a strained back is not ideal, and there's definitely lessons to be learned from the decisions that I made. So one big reason that I've been doing so well on this hike is that I've been taking tons of breaks and letting my body get lots of rest and recovery. And then the second factor is that I have tons of experience on the PCT, the CDT, and the AAT, and so I've been able to anticipate and control all of the conditions that I encounter on this trail. But yesterday I encountered winds of such a speed that I have never seen in my entire thru-hiking career. At least I haven't seen winds like that outside of a proper actual storm with rain and thunder and maybe hurricane level stuff. So that's one. The conditions were just really intense yesterday in a way that I wasn't able to anticipate. And the second thing is that as the conditions were getting more severe, my ability to make good decisions was going down because I was doing really well the day I left town. I was taking lots of breaks. The wind was strong, but it was fine. I was feeling strong, well rested. I had a heavy food carry, but everything was going really well. And then I decided to camp only a few miles onto trail up the ridge because I felt that if I went on further, it was like another 3 miles to the next good spot. And I felt like that was too much with a heavy pack, and I should rest and then attempt that in the morning. But the problem was that I did not get rest. Instead of having a good rest that night, the winds just kept pushing my sleeping bag, over and over, and I could not find a single protected position to sleep in. And I couldn't move. There was nowhere to go. And so when the sunrise finally came at 5:30, I had gotten 1 hour of sleep. My brain was just fried from the constant severe winds that had just been buffeting me all night. And all I could think of was, I just need to get to a place with shelter. and then I can rest. I can give myself as much rest as I need. I can sleep for the rest of the day, and there's a really sheltered spot 1 mile ahead. And this is the key moment, I think. I think if I had had my head, I probably would have thought, you know what, I should just go back to town, wait out the higher winds, and then come back when they've gone down a bit. But the 1 mile uphill was closer than the nearest sheltered spot downhill, and so I decided to go up. So the constant screaming of the winds had driven me a little bit insane. And I was still keeping my head and going slow and being very careful. And the winds weren't pushing me around too much. It was just hard to walk. But I didn't realize how that was affecting my little back muscles, which are still the weakest part. Like my core has gotten really strong, my legs have gotten really strong, but I've been protecting my back instinctually. That those back muscles are probably the weakest part of my body still, and those were the ones that were the most necessary when the wind is pushing against you. They are the ones that stabilize your torso when the wind is pushing against your pack and the pad. And so that was getting whipped around, and my back muscles were working really hard. And unfortunately, since I had gotten 0 sleep the night before, I think those back muscles had also been bracing and working all night without rest. Whereas normally when I would wake up, they'd be fully refreshed and fully ready to go. So anyways, when I finally got to 0.1 miles away from a very sheltered, protected spot that I knew was up there because of the comments, that was when I hit the saddle. And the winds were so strong, but shelter was so close. I just crawled and went for it. But I think my back muscles had to work harder than they were ready for. And in the past, that would have been no problem. But I just was unaware of how weak my back was in that particular scenario. And then that was it. I made it through the saddle, but I strained my back, and then I got to my little juniper hideout and I rested for 24 hours, and here we are. So I think the biggest lessons are, one, that my back needs to be conditioned for walking in the wind more carefully than I thought. So if I can walk 3 miles an hour normally, I probably need to take that down to like 0.8 or 0.6 miles at a time in strong winds until my back builds up enough strength. And then lesson number 2 is that if I don't get a full, really good night of sleep, my body is going to be even more vulnerable to injury that day, which is obvious. And now I am 1.5 miles away from the road that will take me back to town, which will take me to a bed, and I can rest for probably a week, and figure out what happens next. I did have a little cry about it because it sucks to not be as strong as you want to be. But I think I just need some time to recover, maybe a week. It might end up being more, and then I can figure out whether it makes sense to come back to trail here or perhaps elsewhere where it's not as windy. All right, I'm moving again. Seem to be moving a little easier than this morning when I started, so I think that bodes well. I'm still very stiff and have no mobility, and it still hurts a lot, but I will take the little improvements. So I called a trail angel from the list, and they're gonna come out and get me, and I think they have a place for me to stay that will be a lot more affordable than a hotel in town. I made it. I'm back at civilization. That was rough. That was pretty painful, but I'm here. A trail angel is coming to pick me up soon.